Hello and welcome to day 3 of the Tennis Menu's US Open shows. Day 4 actually, but day 3 of the tournament. For tennismenu.com, anything you need to know about the world of tennis right there. Blogs, drills, videos, anything that you want to improve your game with your tennis, it is at thetennismenu.com. I'm your host, Val Febbo, and joining me as always is the best coaching analyst in the business. I gave him a big head yesterday, couldn't get out of the office, so he's still there. Marc Sophoulis, better than Patrick Mouratoglou. Hashtag Marc for PM.
That's a huge call, but I'm definitely not moving out of this office at the moment. It's I'm in lockdown, but I'm actually in total lockdown if I can't get out of here. So thanks, Val, once again. It's obviously been a huge day at the US Open, massive upsets in the female side of the game. Some of the top seeds in the men get through, but we've still got one match to go, and I've got it in the background of what we're doing right now. So Stefanos Tsitsipas is still playing on court in that third set, and looking forward to dissecting the whole day's play with you.
I know, I'm really excited about it, but you mentioned that off the top. The women's seeds have absolutely capitulated today. So on the main courts, it was all good up until Karolina Pliskova went out. So Petra Kvitova through Naomi Osaka, through Angie Kerber, through all in straight sets. And Naomi Osaka, you can count on one thing against the girl she was playing: death, taxes, and Camilla Giorgi hitting double faults 100%. Karolina Pliskova, though, we said it yesterday. Caroline Garcia, former top 10 player, very dangerous floater in this draw for Pliskova. And Garcia gets through 6-1, 7-6, saved 2 set points at 4-5 down in the second set. Got through, won the tiebreaker. She moves on to round 3. Petra Martic goes through as well. Jennifer Brady is through, but now this is when the seeds start to crumble. Madison Bringle over Diana Yastremska, 6-2, 6-3. Varvara Gracheva of Russia, 1-6, 1-5 down on Kristina Mladenovic, comes back to win, how many is that? 13 of the next 14 games of the match to win that 1-6, 7-6, 6-love. What a performance that was by Varvara Gracheva. Unbelievable. Alina Rybakina out against Shelby Rogers. Annette Konzervate gets through. Alison Risk also out, the 13th seed. She was belted by Ann Lee, 6-love, 6-3. Disappointing result for her. Yulu Putintseva is through. Magdalene got through. Marketa Vondrasova. I knew Alexandra Sasnovich was a dangerous floater, but geez, Belarus are having some good players in this draw with 3 still in contention on the women's side of things. So unbelievable, defeating Vondrasova 6-1, 6-2. And Marta Kostyuk, well, we keep mentioning her, and she keeps performing 6-3, 7-6 over Anastasia Sevastova, who we've talked up a lot, Marc. But before we do get into the men's, I've got to talk to you about Kristina Mladenovic, because she came out today and she absolutely caned the USTA and how everything is sort of unfolded. She's been called a close contact of Benoit Paire. I've written a piece for this on the tennismenu.com in the blog section. So head to tennismenu.com, click on the blogs tab, and my piece is there. Mladenovic needs to learn some perspective. So the quotes essentially said, I would so much like to say a lot of things about what is going on here. It's absolutely abominable how they treat us, but I don't want that to be an excuse for my defeat. It's not the fault of the USTA. I didn't convert my 4 match points, and I have the impression that we are prisoners. So, look, I'll say my piece, and I'm going to get your perspective on this as a coach, because I'm about to absolutely tee off. You're in a prison. You're allowed to travel from France, go all the way over to America, conduct your profession, do your job, get paid very handsomely to do it. This is 100,000 American dollars that you're getting in the second round of a slam here, Kristina. And you've got the audacity to say it's a prison because you're a close contact to Benoit Paire. You're not in your country. In Melbourne, we can't leave the house after 8 o'clock.
And I don't think in prison you're going to be paid $150,000 US to be there.
Oh my God!
Look, it's definitely a huge story. Had she have converted those 4 match points and being 6-1, 5-1 up, does she go on the record saying this? My odds are no. It's definitely emotion coming out of that match. Obviously frustration. If you're 6-1, 5-1 up, finish the match off. At the end of the day, it's like, you got to finish that. But what a comeback that was. And, I think it's a huge story, because not only does this affect Mladenovic now, but this is going to have lasting mental effects getting into matches where she might be in that same situation. She's going to think very similar thoughts. And, she's going to remember this one match and go, wow, hopefully I don't do what I did last time. And that's a real challenge for any coach or athlete to get over after this sort of situation.
How do you get over those mental scars?
You're going to have to win a match from that situation to be able to overcome the last impact that you did have mentally. And the brain is actually designed to protect you. So when you get in that next situation, the brain is going to send alarm bells and say, hey, listen, this is what happened last time. And then you're going to tense up. There's no doubt. The moment you start to overcome a few of those events next time is when the brain starts to ease up a little bit and not think about what happened this time. So it is a challenging one. It's interesting because Garcia was in a similar situation against Pliskova. She was up a set in 4-1, and Pliskova came back to be 5-4 up and have 2 set points in that match. And it could have been the exact same scenario for Garcia, but she ended up pulling through and winning that match. And obviously the number 1 seed is out of the draw, and it opens up right up the top. Jennifer Brady now will have a bit more of an opening, and she's playing some good tennis after winning Cincinnati last week.
Yeah, she sure does. And one thing, you mentioned that Brady, so Garcia and Mladenovic in the same sort of sentence there, they used to play doubles together and were a really formidable Grand Slam winning team. They don't really speak much anymore because Mladenovic came out publicly and said a few things about, or I think one of them came out publicly and said things about the other. I can't remember which one it was now, but about someone's father, and that he has way too much to do with anything that goes on. I think it was Garcia about Mladenovic. So very, very interesting stuff there. But yeah, disappointing from Mladenovic. Learn some perspective. Look at what other people are doing, staring into the abyss of depression and a lack of employment, having to go on government benefits. You're not in a prison. You're doing what you love. And if you don't want to do that, head back to Europe and stay in quarantine because, there's other people that would kill to be in your position right now. So gain some perspective. And you mentioned coming back from 6-1, 5-1 down. If you're a coach, I know we had this 2 sets to love down mentality, but this is completely different because you are 1 game away from winning a match. What do you instill in a player to make them try and be so clean that they cannot lose a game and they got to win the next 4? Like when you're 2 sets to love down, your opponent has to win another set. But when you're 5-1 down, brink of defeat, what do you say?
It's a good question because it's actually the total opposite. At 5-1 down, you got nothing to lose from that. If you're a set and 5-1 down, you start swinging. And I actually feel like it's harder for a player to close it out than it is for a player to be down and just have a swing and come back because there's nothing to lose. It's much harder to close out a match at 6-1, 5-1 up, and the pressure's on you if you're the number 1 seed like Pliskova, but trying to close it out. If a player gets 1 or 2 games and the momentum starts to shift, that is a real challenge. To be able to, to steady the ship and be able to really calm yourself down and stop the flow, stop the momentum of the match. And we see it in different team sports all the time where a team gets on a run and kicks goals or they score points really quickly. And it's very hard to stop that momentum. In a sport like basketball, they take a timeout, they slow the game down. In a game like tennis, there's no timeout. You just got to keep playing. So, you've got to slow down in between points, but then you might get a code violation for wasting time. And there's so many things that go on. So, yeah, it is a really good question.
Faking injuries, of course.
Oh, you can call the trainer if you like. It's what a lot of players do. And but yeah, it's a really interesting situation in tennis because once the flow of momentum does start, it's very hard to get off that wheel. You're like a mouse and you're just pedaling on one of those wheels and you just keep going. And it's very hard to slow that down. So 2 situations today that's happened, and it's going to happen continuously, and it always has.
Yeah, and that beauty of tennis, unexpected, raw, and unscripted. And that's what we love. So.
And you know what, Bell? Tennis is one sport that I love because there's no time frame on it. So if you're 6-1, 5-1 down, it doesn't matter how long you're out there for. The buzzer won't go off and say, hey, you're out of time. You can take your time. You can focus on getting back. You play 1 point at a time. You stay mentally present, and you can find a way back into any match, and anything is possible.
Yep, exactly right. You just got to stay positive and stay and be mindful. And that's what we discussed the other day as well. But you're right, that draw to the semifinals opens up completely. Petra Martic is obviously there for the taking as the 8th seed, I think. I didn't really think that she would get through to the quarterfinals. She plays Varvara Gracheva next. Alexandra Sasnovich against Yulia Putintseva. Angie Kerber against Ann Lee. So Kerber, this draw opens up for her. But then it also opens up for a Garcia. for a Jennifer Brady to possibly go through to the quarterfinals. So this is really exciting. The next quarter, we've still got Osaka and Kvitova for that collision course in the quarterfinals, which is what I'm hoping we get, because I think the winner of the tournament comes out of that match. But let's move on to the men's results this morning. And it was an interesting day on the men's side of things, because Kyle Edmund almost started things with a massive shock. He took the first set against Novak Djokovic 7-6. Djokovic rebounding to win the next 3-6, 4-6, 6-2, which Kyle Edmund was my favourite player in the world for about an hour there, but then he dipped off. But Alexander Zverev over Brandon Nakashima in 4. Denis Shapovalov overcoming a really big blip in that first set tiebreak against Son Woo Kwon, 6-4, 6-4, 6-2, winning those next 3 sets. The scream when he went down a mini break in that first set tiebreak was so loud. You could hear that on the other side of the world, clear as day. Adrian Manarino over Jack Sock in straight. Taylor Fritz making a big, big statement to the rest of the tennis world, defeating Gilles Simon, who is old, but he's a wily veteran and he's very hard to beat in straight sets. Fritz did that 7-5, 6-3, 6-2. David Goffin over a dangerous Lloyd Harris in 4. Cam Norrie continuing his form, as did Filip Krajinovic. Ricardas Berankis, the heart monitor, the fluctuator, can beat some really good players, but can lose to the world number 700. He's through to the third round with a 4-set win over Steve Johnson. Jordan Thompson, the Aussie, through to a third round for the second time in his career. Jan-Lennard Struff, Pablo Carreño Busta, Alejandro Davidovich Fokina over Hubert Hurkacz in 4. Borna Coric with a 5-set win over Juan Ignacio Londero of Argentina. And Mikhail Kukushkin fighting off a 2-set comeback from Christian Garin to win that in 5. So Mikhail's a bit of a cult hero, isn't he? A lot of those, he's got a great name and he's not a bad guy. So I think everybody wishes him well. Not us here in Australia. We'll take on Jordan Thompson next. But Novak dropped a set. If it bleeds, can we kill it?
Look, I think there was a bit of a speed hump in the road for Novak heading into, obviously, I think probably another Grand Slam title for him. But he's a phenomenal athlete. He just couldn't find his range early on. Kyle Edmund played a really good first set. I think over 3 sets, you can kill it. I think over 5, it's going to be very challenging for anyone to beat Novak Djokovic. I think he's physically in, probably some of the best conditioning I've ever seen him in. And that's saying a lot for a guy who is just the fittest guy in the world. And, he's incredible. I think one of his quotes after the match was, that it's going to take a lot for someone to beat him. And it definitely will. I think, he has to beat himself literally to lose this tournament, and it's his to lose. And that, I guess at the end of the day, though, when you're the hunted, it is quite challenging. When you're, an outstanding favourite, it can be quite challenging to be the favourite. Obviously, every single match you play, and no Roger, no Rafa, no Stan. Obviously get paves the way for him. They're the 3 guys that have beaten him in the past, and I think this is going to be his to lose rather than anybody else's to win.
Yep. And I think, look, there's 2 guys that can go with him pound for pound in 5 sets in this draw that I've seen that can do it, and that's Daniil Medvedev and Dominic Thiem. Thiem's beaten him in 5 sets before, and Medvedev has the capabilities to push him to 5. But if you've got a guy like Stefanos Tsitsipas who hasn't played Djokovic at a Grand Slam, I don't exactly know what I'm going to get. And it's the same with Alexander Zverev, who in best of 3 can knock Novak off and has done that in big finals. I remember 2017 Rome, he wiped Novak off the court. But can he do it in a Grand Slam? Zverev is, and we'll get to him, but that's a conundrum in itself. But Djokovic, it's kind of like that Essendon mantra when Lee Matthews said, the Brisbane Lions coach in 2001, if it bleeds, we can kill it. That Essendon team was a formidable force in 2001. The Lions came back and won, and then they went on their own streak. So maybe it's someone saying, you know what, why not me? And goes out there, doesn't get overawed by the situation. There's no crowd that can really interrupt them and start cheering when they've got a match point. So they won't have as much time to think about it. Because if you notice when players do get match points and there's a crowd there, they cheer for about 30 seconds. That allows it to get into a player's head. They start thinking about who's on the other side of the net, who they're about to beat, and they'll either double fault or hit a really winnable shot or really easy shot out. So that could be something interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Obviously, Medvedev being there last year, he obviously understands how to get to that moment. Does he understand how to get through that moment? Does he understand how to, go past where he was last year? who knows? It's going to be a very interesting time as we do continue the show. Stefanos Tsitsipas does get through in straight sets, which is really good, and he's obviously on his merry way and one of the players probably to beat also in the draw. But it's going to be very hard to beat Novak, who's done this several times, 17 Grand Slam titles. I think he's in a situation where he's fit, he's strong, he's healthy, playing some good tennis. His two nemesises aren't in the draw, and I guess at this stage, Team and Medvedev probably are the two that can knock him off, but he's going to have to play well below his level for them to have a real chance.
Yeah, or they'll have to play well above their general average. But you brought up something to me before we went on air today, and that was Alexander Zverev, his second serve percentage, and how stunningly low his winning ratio is of his second serve points. I can't quite believe it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like in 2020, he's had a real challenge on his second serve. At the ATP Cup, he struggled to hold serve. He was hitting the ground on his side of the court before the ball would go over the net. He was having a real tough time of it. In the first set today, he only won 11% of his second serve points. It's phenomenally low. For the match, he won 33%, which is a really low for a male player of that ability. Top 5 in the world, tall guy, big serve. Who knows? His first serve percentage winning ratio is really high at the moment. Does he start to just go big on that second serve? Who knows what he's going to do to get out of this? But if it becomes an issue moving forward, he's not going to beat the top players. You cannot beat a Novak Djokovic, a Tsitsipas, a Dominic Thiem, or a Daniil Medvedev with a 33% second serve winning ratio. And it's going to be a very, very challenging one for him, but he's going to have to get over these demons pretty quickly.
Well, you mentioned he's going to go for big second serves. He did that against Andy Murray in Cincinnati last week, and he blew it.
Yep.
So that's what. Yeah, it's really tough. I think it's extremely tough because he was serving for the match, went for two really big second serves, and missed them. And yeah, it's really disappointing to see because someone with a big serve like that, he's a tall guy. The serve should be a massive weapon in his arsenal, and at the moment, it's not. That second serve, he should be able to get a lot of kick, get some height, and really take advantage of it and get himself into the point so that he's not going to lose it. Like against a Novak, if your second serve is not up and about, you're screwed. You're not beating him.
Yeah, and one of the keys to winning matches is how many points you win on your second serve. Actually, we look at that as a stat. If you win that stat, 95% of the time you win your match. So It's actually a huge stat to win where, you don't want the player taking control of your second serve. If you're serving at 60%, that means 40% of the time you're serving a second serve point. So you can't have 40% of the time losing just about every single point you play. So it is a really challenging moment for him. He's going to have to get over this very quickly. If he doesn't, I guarantee he's going to lose in very, very quick succession after this round.
Yep. I think that's going to happen as well. And you're 100% right. Now, before we do wrap this up, I want to ask you one more quick question about the humidity in New York, because that does come up every year. And we've seen Roger Federer never sweats, apart from when he's at the US Open. And in the last few years, I've seen Federer absolutely dripping. Nadal just drips anyway, but even more so. It's like the East Rivers coming to Arthur Ashe Stadium. But tell me about the humidity and why it does get so difficult to play in.
Well, it's actually a challenge. So watching the matches at the moment, the courts are actually playing, they're saying between 20 and 30% faster than any year they've had since 2014. So the courts are quicker. The humidity is making the ball bounce a fair bit. It's very challenging from a physical perspective to get the breathing in between points, the sweat that you're losing, the cramping's happening. So there's a lot going on to be able to handle. So not only have these players not had great preparation leading into this event, also the conditions are playing a big factor in who's going to get through and who doesn't. The speed of court is one that Djokovic is loving. He's loving the ball speed. The faster the court, the better for him. His counter-punching ability is sensational. And the ability to then counter-attack is one of his keys. So, these conditions are going to play into the hands of some of these sort of players. I think Medvedev and Djokovic are going to be two players that really suit. And let me tell you, Naomi Osaka is flying. She was hitting serve at 190 kilometers an hour, 118 miles per hour she was serving at. It is going to favor those players that can either absorb the ball really well or can really hit the spots on their serve and really tee off like Naomi Osaka does. And Camilla Giorgi had no chance today.
No, absolutely not. When Georgie gets in a rut on her serve, she's screwed, and she was hitting double faults after double fault today. And you do feel very sorry for her sometimes. But It is quite amusing to watch at the same time. But Stefanos Tsitsipas has wrapped up day 3 of the US Open. He's through to the third round after a win, a 7-6, 6-3, 6-4 over Maxime Cressy, who is a good young talent coming through the ranks at the moment. The schedule for tomorrow, before we do wrap up, Leylah Fernandez against Sophia Kenin early on Arthur Ashe Stadium. Dominic Thiem takes on Rafa with a G. Sumit Nagal from India. Serena Williams in action. Andy Murray versus Felix Auger-Aliassime. What a match that's going to be. Amanda Anisimova. The all-Canadian duel between Pospisil and Raonic. Sloane Stephens. Chris O'Connell and Daniel Medvedev. That is exciting. O'Connell is one of Australia's best talents, and Medvedev, obviously, one of the globe's best talents. The Screech match, Sabalenka v Azarenka, that's going to be huge. Peronkova Muguruza, Andrei Rublev in action, as is Matteo Berrettini, Madison Keys, Karen Khachanov, Joe Konta and Sorana Costella. That's going to be awesome. Dan Evans, Katerina Alexandrova, Alex de Minaur, John Millman and Francis Tiafoe. I'm excited for that one. And Elise Mertens, as well as many, many more players that are going to be out there plying for their spot in the third round of the US Open. Marc, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Enjoy your early night tonight and then get up early again tomorrow morning and watch some more tennis.
Well, it's killing me this sleep because I'm getting up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm throwing on the foxtail and I'm doing some work while I'm watching the matches, and it's gripping tennis. So hopefully everybody's enjoying it. Hopefully everyone's enjoying having tennis back in the forefront of our minds once again. And, our players are able to get back to what they do normally. And hopefully in Melbourne, we can get back to being on the tennis court shortly, which doesn't look too good, but hopefully it's not too far away.
Well, fingers crossed, mate. Best analysis in the game, and I'm looking forward to more of the same tomorrow.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Marc Sophoulis there. Val Febbo here with you as well. Remember, you can follow us at The Tennis Menu on Twitter at The Tennis Menu and Instagram as well. Facebook, The Tennis Menu, LinkedIn as well. TheTennisMenu.com for all you need to know about the world of tennis. Marc has some of the best drills in the game on there. It goes through all the different wings, forehand, backhand, serve, volleying, movement, stretching, anything you need to know, it's there. The blog section with the news and editorials. Marc and I have both have some pieces going up, so you can catch all the news and the latest from the US Open there. Marc and I will be back tomorrow for more tennis and more US Open. Enjoy day 4.